The Killian Law Group's expertise is in injury law. If you're a victim of a doctor's mistake in a motor vehicle collision through no fault of your own, you need to give us a call at 443-GET-PAID. Let us put you in touch with one of our experienced and detail-oriented attorneys and bring the fight to the insurance companies and hospitals for you. 443-GET-PAID. That's 443-GET-PAID. And don't forget, free consultation. Call us today.
With a long-standing reputation for honesty and follow-through, Charm City Builders is proud to be one of Baltimore's most trusted home buyers. And in a world of quick fixes and empty promises, Charm City Builders stands apart. We're local, we're veteran-owned, and we've been buying houses in Baltimore for years.
We buy row homes and single-family homes in any condition, and we'll give you a fair cash offer on the spot. Leave your unwanted belongings, don't fix or clean a thing. We'll take care of it all.
This time on The Real Story, he grew up in a loving home with every opportunity for success. He was preparing to become a priest, then addiction took hold. But what happened next changed everything. Today, Kevin Hourigan shares a story of faith, addiction, recovery, and hope. Welcome to The Real Story. You know, there's an old saying, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. Life has a way of throwing challenges at all of us. And sometimes laughter really is the best medicine. That's why on tonight's show, we'll be bringing you some comic relief from our friends at Magooby's Joke House. Because even in the most difficult conversations, it's important to find moments of joy, perspective, and laughter. But make no mistake, today's story is a powerful one. Our guest grew up in a loving family with every opportunity for success. He was preparing for the priesthood and seemed destined for a life of service. But addiction, isolation, and personal struggles took him down a path that he never imagined. At one point, Kevin Hourigan found himself in a hospital bed, weighing just 112 pounds, suffering from HIV, addiction, and major organ failure, convinced that he was about to take his last breath. Yet today, he is approaching 20 years clean and sober, more than 30 years HIV positive, and dedicating his life to helping others find recovery and hope. It's a story of faith, loss, redemption, second chances, and a remarkable power of recovery. Kevin Hourigan's real story starts right now. Today we are here with Kevin Hourigan, and Kevin has a real story. Kevin, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Michael.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you today, and I'm really excited to hear your story. So tell me a little bit. Where do you come from?
I can't help but chuckle when you said he has a real story, because it really is something. When I think about kind of the journey I've been on, and very circular. I always talk about this idea, but it started off really, really good. I grew up in Bethesda, Maryland, upper middle class, loving family. You know, I can hit all these points. I grew up in a great neighborhood. I grew up with a great group of friends. I loved school. I liked sports. I felt very comfortable in church. And so it's like every, plus you could have growing up, I feel really, really fortunate about that. And then I think of how it all ended, and I think, man, how did it go from that to that? Without me even kind of knowing what was going on. So
sure.
Yeah, it's a pretty incredible story. Started to feel a little uncomfortable, and just didn't feel really like I was in place. So even though I had all these, benchmarks of things that looked like they were going to set me up for success, I didn't seem to have a normal perception of those things, and felt terribly alone. I felt very fearful most of my life, and out of place, and worried about what people thought about me. And as I go along, I got some comfort in the church. And this is important, and part of my story is because from a very young age, I thought I wanted to be a priest when I grew up. And what that did for me is, like, I'm not okay now, but I think when I get there, I'll be all right. And kind of put my head down, got studious and prayerful and serious, kind of put myself on a high moral standard and tried to do good. And went along fine for a while, and then around age 15, couple things happened. I went to a very large public high school, and that raised the terror level to a whole different color, you know.
Big change.
And then, I also started to drink, and I started working in a restaurant.
Okay.
And that is a piece that sounds, insignificant, but I call it an incubator for the disease of addiction. And really, I was drinking with people that were a lot older than me, and they had been doing it for a long time. And, what this did for me is just, it never registered as problematic or out of the ordinary, and I didn't think I was doing things that differently than the people around me. And what it meant is I was going to be drinking just about every day for the next 27 years.
Alcohol is normalized and it's socially acceptable in all different areas of our life. In the restaurants industry and the restaurant scene, I could not have put it any better myself. You take that normalcy, especially for somebody who is an addict or an alcoholic, and it becomes progressively worse, but doesn't seem that way because it's socially acceptable.
I went through high school and did a couple of years of community college, and then I decided to actually enter for studies to the priesthood.
Okay.
And so I went to the seminary up in Cleveland, Ohio. Now, with a wide audience, I don't like to it's not Cleveland's fault, but I hated that place. It's cold and lonely and dark and gray, and I drank. They had a little pub in the basement of that school, and I was the manager, and I drank like I drank everywhere else. They call last call, and if you think that applies to you, you leave, but we would stay. And so I drank my way through college, and then went on to graduate studies. And I was just about to be ordained, and this is where this story takes a really ugly turn. And, it's nobody's fault. I've done a lot of work to get okay with how this all went down, but there came a point in my studies for the priesthood where I knew there was a young kid who was just about to start his studies, and I knew that kid was gay. And in this letter to him, I confided in him that I was gay. And I told him that, I thought you could do the priesthood well, and if I could do anything to help him, I would. And I closed the letter asking him to keep that in confidence. And he broke that confidence. He, went through a spiritual director and the rector, the president of the college, the vocation director, up the chain of command. And in this one brief 2-minute meeting, instead of, thinking everything was fine, I was handed a letter from the Archbishop of Washington saying that I would not now nor ever be welcome to be a student for the priesthood. And so in this singular moment, really just my whole life changed. I couldn't handle it, just incredibly emotionally overwhelmed. I went back to the restaurant business and I was drinking, really heavily. I was taking my pathway to the priesthood very seriously. It involves vows of celibacy, and if I'm not going to be ordained, the celibacy thing was out the window. And in 5 short years, I found out I had contracted HIV. And so now, it's starting to pile up. I'm gay, get kicked out of the seminary, I've got HIV. And, a big part of my story is just my parents were loving and kind and really wanted to help me. But they didn't know what I was suffering from or how they could help, and they didn't know how bad it was for me.
The Killian Law Group's expertise is in injury law. If you're a victim of a doctor's mistake in a motor vehicle collision through no fault of your own, you need to give us a call at 443-GET-PAID. Let us put you in touch with one of our experienced and detail-oriented attorneys and bring the fight to the insurance companies and hospitals for you. 443-GET-PAID. That's 443-GET-PAID. And don't forget, free consultation. Call us today.
With a long-standing reputation for honesty and follow-through, Charm City Builders is proud to be one of Baltimore's most trusted home buyers. And in a world of quick fixes and empty promises, Charm City Builders stands apart. We're local, we're veteran-owned, and we've been buying houses in Baltimore for years.
We buy row homes and single-family homes in any condition, and we'll give you a fair cash offer on the spot. Leave your unwanted belongings. Don't fix or clean a thing. We'll take care of it all.
It's really funny. I remember it was my brother's birthday, and we had a golf tournament for him, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and everything was great. I always talk about it. It's like we were on the golf course. Everything was free of charge, open bar, I had an 8-ball of Coke in my pocket, all my, so many people that I knew and loved around me. And people kept asking me, "Are you okay, Kevin? Are you doing all right?" And I was like, never better. And, 2 weeks later, I'm in the hospital dying.
Right.
And that's not an exaggeration. I do this inventory. I had no relationship with God, no real relationship with me, no real relationship with anybody around me. The family and friends and people I work with and for are gone. I was out of my mind. I was seeing and hearing things that weren't there. Couldn't put together a cogent thought. Hadn't made a good sound moral decision in a very long time. Just emotionally dysregulated. And then physically, it was really bad. I was in major organ failure. I was strapped to a hospital bed. I was 6'1", 112 pounds. Couldn't walk, couldn't talk, couldn't go to the bathroom by myself. Seizures and convulsions, respiratory and cardiac arrest in an MRI machine. And I had a MRSA infection in my brain that was killing me, and I was dying of AIDS. And you just put it all together, and I was left all alone in that hospital bed. And I had one of those moments, and it was pretty powerful spiritually, but I was overwhelmed with this idea that I was about to draw my last breath, and I was convinced of it. And, I think a lot of people would call out for God, help me or something, but, it was a prayer, but it was a resignation. My prayer was, God, take me. I'm done here. And I remember being sad because I had, just the way I was talking about this story, like I had so much potential. I wanted so badly, to help, and it was all going to come to nothing. And I was scared. But in that moment, I just had a really profound spiritual experience. I really felt the full-on kind of presence of God. And I knew in that moment, like I knew there was a God. I knew that he had heard my prayer, and I knew I was going to be okay. And I didn't know how, and it took me a while to get kind of nursemaided back to health. And then I went to an intensive outpatient program through that hospital, and they were giving me all kinds of suggestions on things to do. And I just started to say yes. I kid you not, the way I got well was by saying okay. When people that were been around longer than me and knew better than I did, and they were giving me suggestions, telling me what they had done in order to get well, and I just kept saying yes. So to go full circle, I'm coming up on my 63rd birthday next week. In mid-June, I will be 32 years HIV positive.
Wow.
And on June 30th, I will be celebrating 20 years clean and sober.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and the story, like that inventory of June 30th, 2006 to today is just, it's like remarkable to me. Like today I have a beautiful relationship with God and with me and with the people around me. And, my life is just so full and rich, and, I walk with a sense of purpose and direction. I'm not hearing and seeing things that aren't there. I'm reasonably, rationally sound and make pretty good moral decisions and emotionally regulated. And, physically, sometimes I just go, ta-da, like I'm 6'1", 183 pounds. I can walk and talk and go potty all by myself. And, I work in treatment. I work in a drug and alcohol treatment center. I am a residential manager at a halfway house, a job that I absolutely love. And I am just fully engaged in my recovery and trying to help other people, to find that path towards their recovery as well. So I'll tell you one thing, like when people hear this kind of story of, just it started so good, it got so bad, and now it's so good again. Like, I just have to say that, like, I get great satisfaction out of allowing other people to have that kind of journey as well. And one of the things that gets me is just this idea that I can do whatever I want. And I really believe that. I've got adequate intellect and means and everything. And so I had to carve out a niche that I really enjoyed. And so people are asking me, have you ever thought about becoming a counselor or running or owning a treatment center? And I'm like, absolutely not. And they don't get it. And I get that they don't get it, but I don't live a 24-hour-a-day life. I get to go into work. I work hard and dedicated and loyal and all of that, but I clock out.
Right.
And then I go home to this recovery house where I'm, care for 6 guys that are in early recovery, and I get to help them.
Sure.
And I'm also fully engaged in my program of recovery. And so to do something more like professionally, to take away from other areas of my life, I've just never really been willing to do it. I just don't have the drive or desire. But the cool thing is like I'm perfectly fine. I'm well taken care of. I have everything I need, and I really am just genuinely happy. The story is I haven't said a lot other than okay in my treatment, in my entire recovery journey. And somebody will say have you thought about doing this or moving there? And in this tapestry, this beautiful life has been built one little piece at a time, and we know some of the other players that have been a part of that. But to be where I am, I'm 60, just about to turn 63, and to come from a place of complete death and destruction, and to be comfortable in my own skin, surrounded by thousands of people in recovery that I am, doing what I love. I'm just one of the very, very fortunate people around.
For sure.
I'll tell you a great story. Is the very first golf trip I did after my crash and burn. We went to a beautiful golf course down in North Carolina called Bald Head Island, which was ironic enough. But I got my one and only hole in one.
Wow.
With my 3 brothers watching, and a puppy pile on the tee. And it's moments like that, that I just would have missed. And
it's amazing.
I came so close to missing. We talked before we got started here today that I'm a crier, and just thinking about moments like that really will bring me to tears.
What could you say to someone watching today if they know somebody or they themselves are struggling? Any suggestions that you could leave them with?
If I can get a little in depth, I would just say, the other day working in a treatment center, I get to do a group once a week. And my favorite group is just a description of the disease. And it wasn't until somebody explained it very carefully, very methodically to me that I could see, it's not my fault. I didn't do it. Nobody else did it. I am unwell, and this is the way in which I'm unwell. And it's a really important piece for me. And it is that, my body reacts differently when I put a mood and mind altering substance in me. My sister has 4 drinks. She wants to go home. I have 4 drinks. I want to go to Vegas, and her night's over and mine's just getting started. And so there's this physical aspect to it. But most people would say, then stop doing it and you'll be okay. And if that were the only part of the disease, that would be true. But the problem is the disease resides primarily in my mind. Mm-hmm. So that when I'm not drinking and I'm not using, it's figuring out a way to get me back to it. And it's always going to win. And that piece, I think, is the most important part. That if I have this disease, I am always going to get drunk and high again. So I have a tough time stopping, but if I stop, I have a really tough time staying stopped. And when you see somebody that's in that state, just try to remember they are unwell. They're not bad, they're unwell. They're not hurting you intentionally. Their priorities have been skewed by this disease. And then the final piece, really, for me, that was the clincher is I think it's spiritual. Through this piece of addiction, I just get selfish and self-centered. I'm so, isolated, so alone, and I cannot care about others. And so, the harm I'm doing to my family, I don't want to do. I'm not doing it intentionally. I cannot not do it. And so that would be my word to the people in general is, let's try to treat unwell people as people who are sick and not bad. And there are, as you know, just so many resources. And so it's to get over the stigma and just say, hey, they're not bad. This is something I can talk about freely. They're just unwell. We have this disease, and there is a solution. And I'm living proof of it. It's one of my favorite things to say. You can't tell me that recovery doesn't work or doesn't happen. You can't convince me of that, because I'm living proof of the contrary. and it can be done. So there is hope, is probably my most important message.
I love that. There certainly is. Kevin, this was absolutely phenomenal. I really
Thanks,
appreciate you
Michael.
coming out. And once again, this was another real story. What stands out to me about Kevin's story is that addiction doesn't always look the way people expect it to look. Kevin came from a loving family. He had faith, he had goals, and he had purpose. Yet addiction still found its way into his life. His story reminds us that addiction is not a moral failure. It is not a lack of character. It's an illness that can affect anyone. But Kevin's story is also proof of something else. Recovery is possible. Not only is recovery possible, but a life beyond your wildest expectations is possible. The same man who was lying in a hospital bed, believing he was about to die, is now helping others find their way back to life. That's an incredible testament to hope, faith, and perseverance.
The Killian Law Group's expertise is in injury law. If you're a victim of a doctor's mistake in a motor vehicle collision through no fault of your own, you need to give us a call at 443-GET-PAID. Let us put you in touch with one of our experienced and detail-oriented attorneys and bring the fight to the insurance companies and hospitals for you. 443-GET-PAID. That's 443-GET-PAID. And don't forget, free consultation. Call us today.
With a long-standing reputation for honesty and follow-through, Charm City Builders is proud to be one of Baltimore's most trusted home buyers. And in a world of quick fixes and empty promises, Charm City Builders stands apart. We're local, we're veteran-owned, and we've been buying houses in Baltimore for years.
We buy row homes and single-family homes in any condition, and we'll give you a fair cash offer on the spot. Leave your unwanted belongings. Don't fix or clean a thing. We'll take care of it all.
Addiction 101, sponsored by Charm City Builders. Charm City Builders buys houses. Let's talk about one of the most popular pieces of advice people give to someone struggling with addiction. Just stop. Here's the reality. If it were that simple, addiction wouldn't exist. Addiction changes the brain, not in some abstract feel-good way, but in a very real physical way. The brain starts rewiring itself so that the substance becomes a top priority. Not a priority, the priority. We're talking food, water, and drugs. That level. So when someone is deep in their addiction, their brain isn't saying, hey, maybe this is a bad idea. It's saying, we need this to survive. Now, does that mean people aren't responsible for what they do? No. Actions still matter. But if you don't understand what's actually happening, your advice isn't just unhelpful, it's part of the problem. Because shame doesn't fix addiction. Judgment doesn't fix addiction. And pretending it's just about willpower definitely doesn't fix addiction. Treatment helps. Connection helps. Actually knowing what you're dealing with, that helps. So next time you think the solution is just stop, maybe stop and learn something first. That's Addiction 101. On this show, we tackle some serious topics: addiction, mental health, loss, trauma, and the challenges that life throws our way. But there's another important part of healing that we don't talk about nearly enough, and that's laughter. As the saying goes, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. And sometimes a good laugh can be just what we need to get through a difficult day. That's why we recently visited Magooby's Joke House, one of the premier comedy clubs in the country, right here in Maryland. For years, Magooby's has brought some of the biggest names in comedy to the stage while giving audiences a chance to forget their worries for a little while and simply enjoy themselves. So now, let's take a break from the serious and enjoy some laughs that we captured live at Magooby's Joke House.
You guys drinking tonight? Make some noise if you're drinking tonight. Sweet. I like to get drunk. Anytime I get drunk, I like to Uber. That's what people say. If you get drunk, you should Uber. So that's what I do. My passengers are usually like, what the heck's going on? They're not thrilled about it. I was walking up the street before I came here, and a dog came up and sniffed me. Everybody says the same thing when a dog sniffs them. Everybody is always like, I bet he smells my dog. They're like, I bet he smells my dog from home. Whenever a dog sniffs me, I'm like, oh no, he smells the cocaine in my pocket. I'm a parent. I remember when my girlfriend was pregnant, we were thinking of names. A lot of parents name their kid after the place the kid was conceived, like Dallas or Paris or London. If my mom and dad named me after where I was conceived, I'm pretty sure my name would just be Glenn Burney, all right? They'd be like, this is Glenn Bernard. This is his sister, Serverna. No, I have a daughter. I was driving down the street with my daughter. We drove past a diner, and it said on the sign, it said, kids eat free. My daughter was like, we should eat there because kids eat free. And I was like, you eat free everywhere I take you. We got any couples in here? You guys a couple? No? Any couples? You guys role play? You guys role playing? Me and my girlfriend role play sometimes. She's the doctor and I'm the patient. I'm like, I'm pretty swollen down there, doc. And she's like, oh no, your insurance doesn't cover that. She's like, you need to get a referral for that. You need to see a specialist.
Our thanks to everyone at Magooby's Joke House for reminding us that laughter still has the power to bring people together.
How do we get over 1,000 5-star reviews? By aggressively fighting for the rights of our clients. The insurance companies, they hire attorneys. The hospitals, they hire attorneys. Don't you think you should as well? We will make sure to get the compensation that you deserve. No recovery, no fee. Let the experienced attorneys at the Killian Law Group take the stress out of an already stressful situation and take the fight to the insurance companies for you. 443-GET-PAID. That's 443-GET-PAID.
Before we go, I want to once again thank Kevin Hourigan for sharing his remarkable story with us. Stories like Kevin's remind us why this show exists. When people are willing to be honest about their struggles, their setbacks, and their victories, they help others realize that they're not alone. That is one of the core values of The Real Story. Using the power of storytelling to educate, inspire, and offer hope. And trust me, we've got some incredible stories still to come. In the weeks ahead, we'll continue bringing you powerful conversations with people who have overcome tremendous obstacles, found purpose through adversity, and are making a difference in their communities. We'll also continue to bring you laughs from our friends here at Magooby's because life's challenges are real, but so is the healing power of laughter. When it's addiction, recovery, mental health, public service, personal triumph, or simply extraordinary people living extraordinary lives, we're just getting started. You won't want to miss what's coming next. For all of us here at The Real Story, thank you for watching. Please share this episode with someone who may need to hear Kevin's message of hope. I'm Michael Silberman, and we'll see you next time on The Real Story.